Hey guys, welcome to a long overdue edition of Chewing the Fat. Today I have with me fellow Simpler Health coach Emma Nedov. Welcome, Emma.
Hey.
Thanks for joining me. We're going to catch up on a few things. Emma's just got back from a holiday in Europe, and Dean and I have also got back recently, early April, from a 2-week trip to Canada. We're going to be covering what happens, how we managed our health and nutrition over those times, and how we may have approached that very differently. And also how our experiences have been as coaches within the Simpler Health protocol and coaching setup. And also what's kept us both in the game, like what's had us sustain our health and vitality long after we finished the Simpler Health protocol and came on to become coaches. So welcome, Emma. How was your trip?
Thanks, Trev. Oh, it was incredible. I mean, Europe has my heart just like every other Australian.
Where did you go? What did you see? What did you eat?
Landed in Vienna, so spent a day walking around there. Went to Budapest for a night. I actually covered a lot of ground in like 15 days. Spent a week in Croatia. I've got some family in Croatia. And then spent the second week in Italy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good time.
What was your approach to that whole trip? Because I know I had Dean was on the trip with me as well, and I had a couple of other mates, and one of those had said to me, "Look, I'm just doing whatever you do on the trip. I'm just going to follow you." And I initially set out to go, all right, how am I going to manage, enjoying myself still eating some things now and again that I want to try that I'm not going to get to unless I'm in Canada, but also stick to the long-term health plan. But then I was also at the time dealing with some clients that had been away on trips that seemed to, put on a lot of weight while they were away. And it did my head in a bit. It was just like, wow, how much have you got to eat to put on that much in that short amount of time? So I sort of decided to do it as an experimental thing where I wasn't going to necessarily go off the chart nuts, but I also wasn't going to worry too much about what I ate, what I did, all that sort of thing, and see where I end up in the end of the 2 weeks, so I can get a gauge of just how off track and how much people are eating when they're on holidays. And also, we'll talk about this a bit later too, about just the mental approach to holidays,
Yeah.
which is seems to be all based around food, which is,
Food. Mm.
I can understand it on different places. I mean, when I go to Vietnam, or Thailand, it's just like the food. Luckily, it's sort of fairly healthy at the same time. But
Yeah.
so we went to Canada, and we didn't hold back. Let's put it that way. We ate pretty much whatever we wanted to eat, and we drank whatever we wanted to drink. And there was a few things. I trained in some of the mornings. If the if the hotel had a gym, I'd get up and go do my normal training session. I'd come back from big meals or big nights out or whatever, and Dean would be looking at me like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I had my feet up on the bed, punching out 30 push-ups, just to try and minimize at least the impact of whatever I'd done that night in terms of food and drink. And I got back from that trip, and I'd 2 weeks of going fairly, hard. Was I think I'd put on 1.5 or 2 kilos over that 2 weeks. So I'm just like, how the hell are these people putting on 4 or 5 kilos when they're away on a week's a week and a half, 10 days trip?
Yeah.
What I noticed was it was really great to have the technology we do with the Simple Health protocol and just pulling it all back. Like, it only took me 2-3 weeks of being back, and I was back to the weight that I was before I left for Canada, which was
Mm.
fantastic. How did you approach it? What was your outlook?
Yeah, look, I was a bit the same in that I kind of was like not worried. Like I guess the beauty of knowing what we know now and having been through the program, I'm of the mindset of like I can always revert back to what I know. Like even if I'm away and I'm out of my routine, I know that when I come back, I've got comfort in knowing I'll be back in control like pretty much immediately. And so, I went away knowing, okay, my routine's going to be a little bit different, but it is what it is. Let's just see how it goes.
Mm.
I think, I'm a firm believer in there's no point worrying about something that hasn't happened yet. And also, when I go away, like the emphasis is on being away. It's not so much around what am I going to eat all the time? Like, where am I going to go for food? You know, I think I was speaking to someone about it when I went to Vienna. Everyone I told, I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Vienna for the day. And at least 3 people told me about this Viennese chocolate cake. I think it's called Sakator or something like that. And they were like, "Oh, you must eat this chocolate cake when you go to Vienna." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, like, okay, sounds good." I don't love chocolate cake. It's a bit too rich for me, but I was like, "Whatever." Lemon tarts, maybe more my style. And so I went to a cafe when I got to Vienna, and I was with my boyfriend, my sister, and our friend. And we had a coffee, and a Viennese coffee is like, I don't know, they put like a dollop of cream in it. It's really yum. So I was kind of more excited for that. Had a coffee, and then I saw the chocolate cake there.
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, yeah, like, it looks nice." And I looked around, I was like, "So does anyone wanna try this chocolate cake?" And my sister, she's anaphylactic to nuts, so she's like, "Absolutely not." My boyfriend and his friend were like, no, not really. Like, I don't really feel like it." And I was like, "Yeah, me either." And so we just, like, walked out. And I left Vienna not having the chocolate cake. So, that was one thing where I kind of had the realization of, okay, I didn't even need to think that through. I just didn't feel like it.
Mm.
And then the rest of the experience, to be honest, we ate in a few times. I think we went out for meals pretty irregularly. Like, it was consistently maybe for lunch because we were out exploring.
Yep.
But even still, even in Italy, there were a couple of days where it was so hot. The last thing you felt like was a big bowl of pasta. And so we would have like the caprese salads. So yeah, it was a heck of a lot of cheese, and they friggin' love their olive oil over there. Super high fat. But to be honest, it was mostly veg and things like that. It was a no-brainer. It's kind of exactly what I felt like. Look, did I eat more carbs? Definitely. Did I have more alcohol? Definitely. But we were up and about. I can't say that I was in my hotel room doing push-ups.
Mm.
My days of doing that was as an elite athlete, and I will not be doing that again. um, However, I didn't weigh myself before I went, but I came back and my jeans that I hadn't taken with me were actually looser than when I left.
Mm.
I mean, I put it down to a lot of walking around and, to be honest, just not eating a lot of food.
Yeah.
I was out on holidays, and I'd say that, my portions and the amount of food that I ate, we ate 3 meals a day. Like, breakfast was in the hotel or in the Airbnb. So it was like, cold meats, maybe some fruit, whatever we could find from the supermarket.
Mhm.
Lunch, like I said, we'd eat out, mainly salad. And then dinner, sometimes we'd do the same thing as brekkie.
Yeah.
The only thing that was really, really abnormal for me was drinking.
Yeah.
And even still, I just was conscious of it because, knowing what I know now, I struggle to go over the top with it now because I'm just like, it's just not what I want anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We had a similar thing with you had with the cake with a thing called poutine in Canada, which everyone was telling me and sending me messages. You've got to try the poutine. Have you tried the poutine? It's awesome. I'm thinking, what the hell is? And I think we may have seen it on a menu or two. And one night I said, look, I think we're at a pub somewhere, and they had poutine on the menu. I said, everyone's telling us we should try this poutine, so let's just give that a go. Chips and gravy with some other stuff in it, like maybe some shredded meat over the top of it, or some cube deep fried bits of cheese, but it was basically chips and gravy. And I was like,
yeah,
really?
yeah,
What's the big deal with poutine? I think it's more the name than anything else. It just sounds kind of, so sort of out there. But I think what it also highlighted was when you are metabolically well, you're much better set up to deal with a week here and there of holidays and doing those types of things.
Yeah, 100%. Like there was actually for me a big fear factor in eating like normal food while I was away, because in the past I've experienced when I was really insulin resistant, didn't matter if it was a week or 2 weeks, I would feel the effects of it immediately. So having lived a life like going through protocol and now being really on point with, following what we've learned through working with Simpler Health, being able to do that for 2 weeks and come home having lost weight, I'm like, oh, thank goodness, straight back into normal routine.
Yeah, that's what's been really great for me. And it actually shocks you a bit. Sometimes you get a little bit loose and you're like, oh, I'm starting to feel a bit puffy again, or a couple of things have crept in. I've surely got to be putting on. And then you sort of get back on the scales again and have a look at especially the body composition and, body fat percentages and things like that, and just go, no, I haven't gained it. What?
Yeah.
And it sort of kicks in. You're like, of course, because
Yeah.
just completed the protocol the whole way through and then learnt how to manage those times to minimize the impact of them. Because, as we keep saying in these videos, it's never the one night of eating a bucket of ice cream and a pizza that puts on the 10 kilos. It's
Yeah.
just those little indulgences over time every day that you don't really notice, and then wake up 3 years later going, crap, 20
Yeah.
kilos. So it
Yeah.
is a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's,
definitely. I think it's definitely in that management, and also just that knowing that you have managed it and therefore you'll be able to do it again. Because I know that when I initially finished phase 3 of protocol and I went into phase 4, I was kind of like, what am I doing?
yeah. Same
And
here.
I just,
Up and down like
and I didn't have that trust of like, what do I do now? So yeah, anyway, it's good.
I went into more boom and bust. Like, all right, I've got this great technology now. I'll just eat like I used to. And then when it gets too much, pull it back in with phase 1. And then eat like I used to, and then pull it back in until, I got a slap upside the head from Dean and said, you shit out in phase 4. No more phase 1 for you. And I'm like, let me have a look and see why I did this in the first place. Yeah, it was to stop eating like that. How about we do that? And then,
Yeah.
as you saw in my Facebook post, 3.5 years later, I'm now 4 kilos lighter than I was a year later after the Simpler Health protocol.
Yeah, impressive. Well, yeah, God, I've changed since I finished the end of protocol as well. For starters, I didn't have a normal menstrual cycle, and now I do. Thank God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot. I totally forgot about it. No, I'm joking.
Um, but yeah, and also, now that I'm sort of metabolically well, like I know when I first started protocol, training for me and like going to the gym and that whole like fitness part of things, I had to kind of cool it off a little bit after sport for a while. And now I've been able to get back into it, and I can notice a huge difference, like almost straight away, just in strength abilities, not feeling lethargic, and more than that, like not being ridiculously hungry just because I'm training again.
Yeah.
Which
Also,
I know happens.
also the offset things, like I notice I'm way more sensitive to slight variations in how I perform each day. Like if I eat certain things one day, I notice the impact of that the next, good or bad. It's like, wow, that's made a big difference. Or, well, that's why I'm feeling like crap today, because I did that yesterday, and suck it up and go out the back and train anyway. It's like noticeable things where it just used to blend in day to day and didn't really seem to matter what I did. I remember I posted on a Facebook post, or it might have been an Instagram message from someone else today about, they were talking about gout. And it used to be a disease of the rich, where if back in the day, people with lots of money would overindulge in a lot of food, and basically they were just metabolically unwell and fat. But the whole outlook around that sort of thing is that certain foods trigger it, which,
Wow.
yeah. So like I spent, the last 2 years before I started the protocol basically dealing with gout every day. If I didn't have a gout medication tablet, I would be on the lounge with my foot in the air, feeling like someone was just tapping a pickaxe through the joint of my toe. And it
No
was,
way.
oh, it's the most painful thing you'll ever experience. It's just insanity, right? So, and I was always trying to find what foods triggered the gout because, it's things with high impurity, tomatoes, beer, red meat, all these types of things that are supposed to and are known to trigger gout with people that tend to get it. And I'd eliminate one for a couple of weeks and that didn't make a difference. And I'd eliminate the other for another couple of weeks and that didn't make a difference. And since doing the protocol and completing that and getting metabolically well again, I haven't taken a gout tablet or had gout for 3.5 years. And I
Oh my God.
haven't eaten tomatoes. I haven't not drank beer. I haven't not eaten meat, eat plenty of meat. And
Yeah.
it's like none of that was the problem. It was the metabolic dysfunction that was causing the issue. Which don't
Yeah.
you find that with most, with a lot of the Simple Health clients, it's like they come in with so many underlying health issues that they're looking that way to fix things, like a band-aid approach. Oh, the doctor said to do this, or I'm taking this to try and relieve the symptoms of that, and all that sort of thing. And within 2 weeks, those symptoms disappear once
Yeah.
they reduce that inflammatory mechanism and reduce insulin and start losing the weight and restoring metabolic health. These things just magically clear up. It's insanity.
Yeah. Yeah, well, even when because I obviously before I did phase 1, I gained a lot of weight in a short period of time, like within 6 months. And along with the weight gain, I got a lot of psoriasis.
Mm,
It's bizarre because never in my life had I had eczema or anything of that kind. And yeah, within like maybe 3 weeks of doing protocol, it was pretty much gone. I don't really get it now. But it's one of those things where you can eliminate things here and there, but your baseline now is like up here. And you've got to get your baseline down here. Otherwise, eliminating things is not going to do anything,
exactly
you
right.
know?
Exactly.
So yeah, I guess that's the beauty is now we can tolerate these things. Now we can tolerate going on a holiday and whatever because our baseline's back down to a capacity where our bodies can handle it. And it's for just short periods of time, you know?
Yeah, exactly right. It's not like, and like I said, we rely because you complete the protocol in its entirety and learn to deal with yourself in the context of freedom of choice around food, like eating back in normal life versus I'm on a diet and I can only eat this and can't eat that. It just becomes second nature. It's just like a second, it's like a natural thing to do. You go out and I have a burger and beer with my mates or a pizza with the footy or whatever, and the next day I'm minimizing the impact of that with just bringing things back into line and balancing it out. And then
Yeah.
there's nothing to worry about. It's quite amazing, but you have to have that reliability in doing that. On that note, what do you reckon's kept you in the game of sustaining that health set point as well? Because I know for me, and I had this conversation with Dean in the last couple of days, and again this morning about one of our clients, and who, by the way, speaking of the eczema and things like that, took her a week. I remember when she first started, she sent me a picture of her hand, and it was like swollen and puffy with eczema, like sores and where she'd been scratching and stuff like that on it. And then a week into the protocol, her hand was normal size again.
Wow.
Insane. Now you can imagine all the things they'd been trying to do to deal creams, ointments, all sorts
Yep.
of stuff to try and reduce the inflammation there when it's just all done from metabolic perspective. But
Well, it's worth, like obviously your skin's like your largest organ. If there's something showing up in your skin, like inflammation, there is inflammation within you.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
not from the wind. Like, no.
It's-
But like, you know what I mean? Because I used to be like that. I used to be like, oh, it's just the weather's changing. What? Like, no.
yeah. It's funny the things we actually hold true and
Yeah.
as beliefs of why and how things are the way they are, which just aren't. It's just, we're very superstitious in nature,
Mm.
which is quite funny. But yeah, looking at those sort of things, what's actually been really easy to keep me on track is that you and I and Dean are invested, and our focus is on other people's health and
Yeah.
having them get well and healthy. I just seem to get caught up along the way,
Mhm.
which was a really interesting part of the conversation with Dean today, because even though I know that, I just wasn't seeing that with a particular client about keeping them on track. And that was what was actually missing with that client, was that it's just all about them. And
Yeah.
while it's just all about me, I've happily dealt with my fat ass at 25 kilos overweight and made all the reasons and those beliefs we just talked about then about why that's so, why it's okay. All I need to do is X, Y, Z to pull that back into line, which was just pure fantasy, right? But um, when it's just all about me, I'm always going to be pulled back to that comfort, and I've already dealt with it. My brain's already okay with being there, obviously, because it led me to there in the first place. It actually
Mhm.
took a committed effort from Dean as well and myself to say, no, okay, let's change something here and actually just get healthy, forget about the weight side of stuff, and just bring health back into the equation, sort that out, and see what happens. Um, and I think that's a big part of why we keep, on the track to our own health, is because our concern is for other people's health. And I think that's where definitely as coaches, we need to keep that in mind and keep imparting on our clients that that's how they keep their health in check, in being
Yeah.
concerned with the people that matter to them and their health. Then it's not so hard. It's like those people that
Yeah.
get really bored. I know that, people that live near us never heard a peep from them and got along with them really well for a long time, until the wife stayed at home, left a job, started having kids, and then just got bored. And then things started to get, we'd start getting a lot of complaints about trivial nothingness because she was bored and had nothing else to do. Like,
Yeah.
create the drama, right?
Yeah.
So when you take the focus off yourself and it's just all about me, and she's up to bigger things now back at work, we never hear anything from her because it's just not about her little micro community of herself and what's showing up for her inside of that. What are your thoughts? What's kept you on track?
Yeah, definitely. I know that, when I first ended protocol, you're spot on. It didn't stick with me at
Mm.
the beginning because I was all up in my own head.
Yeah.
I was all up in how do I now make this a part of who I am? Like, I don't know. What decisions do I now make every day? If I go out and have carbs, what do I do the next day? Like, it was very like me, me, me. I feel like I'm going at this alone. I feel like I'm the only one that has this problem. How come, like, my sister, who's an absolute stick, can eat chips all day and I can't? Like there was this whole internal monologue around all of that rubbish.
Yeah.
And then when I had to then rein it back in and, similar, had another conversation with Dean, everyone, even my parents, and it became more so, okay, rather than just being obsessed with myself and what I'm doing, this is what I've got to do. This is the responsibility I have. And then when I took on coaching, it was like, okay, now I'm helping other people see that for themselves too. And so you're exactly right. Just as a result of that, it became my responsibility to take care of myself so that I can be responsible for them taking care of themselves.
Mm.
And just had that natural flow on effect. And also, your environment just in general, by contributing to other people's health, yes, you are then contributing to your own, but it's like, has that flow on effect. You're able to then support the people around you that maybe are going through the same thing, like, and similar to what I was saying when I was in Vienna, when I said to my friends, "Oh, do you guys want some cake?" Blah, blah, blah. If they had said, "Yeah, let's have some cake," maybe I would have been more skewed to say, "Yeah, okay, why not?"
Mm.
But they're all, they're all fit. Like my boyfriend far out has a bloody 8-pack just from nothing. He doesn't exercise. It's just how they're conditioned to be, but
Mm.
your environment plays such a role in what your thoughts and actions are then going to be as well. So, I feel like there's two things to that. It's like, you get yourself well, and therefore to sustain that and to take the focus off you, you're able to be like out here and help others and get them well, get them healthy because you love them. Like that's one of the best ways to show love.
Mm.
And then secondly, it's the best way to support you, because if they say no to the chocolate cake, you'll say no to the chocolate cake.
Not that you can't have chocolate cake.
No,
But
but,
and also it's like thinking about that and then thinking about certain people we coach. It's like, how the hell do we expect them to stay on track if their environment pulls for what got them to where they were in the first place? If
yeah,
their environment is the same that it was when they started, they're with us for a phone call a week and some other things they send in and trying to stick to a protocol in an environment that pulls for them to be the same way they were before. How the hell is that going to work? It's only going to work one way. The environment will pull them to go back to how they used to be before until they impact and transform that environment. So
yeah, definitely. And, I think, it's not a matter of, oh, you start protocol and all of a sudden I can't be friends with the people I'm friends with because I
yeah,
need to go out.
that's
I need to go to the gym. I need to go to the gym and start recruiting friends.
I'm going to
uh,
lock myself away in a room until I've lost all the weight. Now I'm going to come out. Ah,
yeah. It's like a matter of, if you start really deciding and you hold yourself accountable and you're like, yep, there's something that I want to do better. I've got to fix my health for whatever reason, whether it's psoriasis, gout, weight gain, like, whatever reason has led
just
you.
health. I mean, not put all those issues aside. We walk around in these things for our whole life, whether that's 10,
Yeah.
20, 40, 70 years. Why the freaking hell wouldn't you want to be walking around in the best version of that as possible?
Yeah. Yeah. And then just, like you can still keep the same friends, you can still keep the same environment, but it's like you are now embodying this new way of being healthy. It makes sense to be able to pass that along. People can take it as they want, right? But like, the best way to make it sustainable for you and to show love to others as well is to give back.
Yeah, exactly right. And then, you're a different person in that relationship for the other person as well, and your environment as well. You've just had a massive impact on their life and their health, and those relationships will never be the same again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even as I say, like, my boyfriend has a complete 8-pack, whatever. He ate like crap when we first met. And so, I'm at home making my like salmon and veg every night because I'm a bit of a lazy cooker.
Mm.
But healthy. I got my veggies, got my salad, got my salmon. I still basically do the same stuff regularly. And so we would have the same meal and he'd be like, oh, this is so healthy, this is so nice. And he'd be like waking up in the morning less lethargic.
Yeah.
Like it's not for anything else. And he didn't even realize that there were little things that he could do to make himself, when he wakes up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work, he wakes up and he's not wanting to go back to bed.
That'd be a big issue, especially I mean, you wouldn't see that given that it doesn't seem to matter what you do, you've still got an 8-pack.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
metabolic function or dysfunction is still going to end up catching up with you and going to be the same, regardless of what I mean, one of my dad's best mates was one of those people that, and he'd brag about it. I can eat whatever I like. I can go on fishing trips and have 5 pies for breakfast and do this and whatever. And look at me, I never put on weight. Yeah, but he ended up having a double bypass or quadruple bypass operation, sorry. And I think he's type 2 diabetic now. Still look the same 20 years ago. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think that's a thing as well. And I talk about that a lot. It's not that you you know, had a bad patch, like a bad 3 months or whatever, like you said, it's like, it's actually a compounding effect
Mm.
of what's been done in the past. And I think a big role to play when you first come to protocol is really accepting that and almost like forgiving yourself for that because you didn't know. You know, when I first started
Giving
protocol,
up
I had,
all the things you hold true about yourself, about
yeah,
food, about what you like and what you don't like. I had some really great conversations, and I think I spoke about this with Dean the other day about how there's a, you know, how people use the language like I listen to my body and my body's telling me. Your body tells you jack shit. It's just a reactionary machine to the input you give it, and it always wants to run on how it survived in the past. So
yeah,
even things I've noticed looking back at those times where things people hold as sacred, like whether you're left or right-handed, for example, right? There was things I did before I had my bike accident and broke my arms that I was left-handed at. I won't go into
yeah,
what they are, 'cause some of it's disgusting, but not in a pornographic way. Other ways.
that's exactly
No,
what my
I thought I'd better clarify that. Not in those ways. But anyway, I digress. I was just definitely left-handed in doing. Now, when I come out of the hospital and I ended up coming out of my right arm, came out of the cast first. So my
yeah,
left arm was still in the cast. And it was just easier to do those things. Maybe not at first, it felt really weird. But over time, it just became the way, even to the point where once I got the left cast taken off and I'm back to, you know, normal with my hands and stuff, I still do those things right-handed. And now
yeah,
it feels weird to be left-handed.
mm,
I think a big part of what has people be successful on the protocol is just giving up all their past beliefs, ways of doing things, and just handing themselves over to someone that we had this conversation before. Sometimes it feels like we're more interested in people's health than they are because, you know, I think it was what we wanted to talk about as well, just the impact on us as coaches when people aren't getting the results that they, you know, initially set out to get. It has a real impact on us as coaches for that reason, because we are generally committed and care. That's not maybe not the best business model because, you know, as Dean says, our aim is to have you come on as a client, train and educate and coach you into sustaining this health for life, and sack you and never see you again. I
yeah,
think that's one of the big fall down, or the big missing in the health and weight loss industry, is it's all just about the weight loss, and no one ever
yeah.
teaches people how to sustain that long term. And of course, you're going to come back to the next diet and the next diet, and that didn't work. The diet worked on some level, just
Yeah.
that your actions and lifestyle didn't alter once you finished the diet, and that's where I think the magic is in the Simple Health Protocol.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I think we always do this thing as well when whatever's going on with the client, we sit back and we'll have a chat about it, but well, so what are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, or
Like,
oh, they're not doing it, then what are you doing?
yeah.
Like,
Where are you?
where's your integrity in your life? Like,
Where are you being that way?
yeah. But yeah, absolutely. You know, I guess it is having been coached in various ways throughout my life. I've
Mm.
definitely taken that on where, you know, there would be even times when I went into the gym and, you know, I was young, didn't really care what I was doing. I wanted to go to the party because there was a party on a Friday night and I was in the gym. Like, that sucks. All of my friends were having fun. You know, and my coach would kind of be there like, you don't understand what you're doing now will pay off. I promise. I know it sucks. And, you know, I look back now and I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't go to the party because I have like this whole record of success in something that barely, like, not that many other people have,
Yeah.
you know? And it's one
That's
of those things where we can see that for the clients and we're like, no, just withhold eating that for this time and I promise you, it will pay off.
that's exactly what, when you were saying that, I was just like, that is exactly the conversation we have with clients where they're like, it's like you can't see it right now. It's just right now, it's just about whether you give in and eat this or whether you eat that or whether you stick to the protocol or whether you don't. But in phase 4, you will realize why we wanted you to stay in that. You just can't see it right now, but just trust the process. And that's what I mean about just giving in and going,
Yep.
it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what I believe or why I should or shouldn't be able to do it. Everything I've thought so far has only ever led me to come to Simpler Health and say, please help me.
Yeah.
So how about we just try this for a bit and see what happens? And then in phase 4, they get to go, oh, exactly what you said. Thank God I did that at the start. Now this makes phase 4 make sense and be able to be sustainable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was doing phase 1, I did not want to do it every day. I did not want to. Like, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd be like, I don't want to have another shake. I'm sick of them. But, like a year and a half, 2 years later now, I'm like, thank goodness I did that. Because if I didn't, I would, I'd be living a very, very, very different life right now.
Yeah.
One that I don't think I'd be very proud of.
Yeah, that's I think that's the thing people get. I mean, I'm one for it as well. You lose the long-term, the sight on the long-term goal for the sake of the short-term gratification. And
Yeah.
it's never worth that 5 seconds of, even when I have days now where I just go, you know what, so I've been great all week. It's been fine. It's not going to matter whether I eat, X, Y, Z and drink X, Y, Z. I'll just smack. And when you finish it, you're just like, it wasn't even worth it. I'd hype way more than it was ever going to be. And you just
Yeah.
get left with emptiness. It's just like a big plate of sadness. And you're just like, oh, that wasn't that
Yeah.
good. And the next time you have that, thought of, oh, it's footy day and, it's my day to sit on the lounge, watch a footy game and eat, whatever. Do I really need to eat whatever? I mean, I can have a little bit of it or whatever, but it's no big deal. It's not the holy grail that I used to make it out. It's just food.
Well, that's the thing. I think you start to take away the emphasis around just food. Like food doesn't become an obsession anymore. I know for myself and also having spoken to a lot of friends, it was never on the forefront of my mind until I went through all of this. But when you're constantly concerned about food or constantly thinking about food, that's when it leads to it being something that you have to think about, something that you have to be consciously responsible for. Once you sort of, get used to it and you're like, yeah, I love this way. I am healthy. When you finally are like, yep, I'm in phase 4, I am healthy. This is who I am. And that's where, when we talk about contributing to others, you are that way. You don't even need to necessarily say it. People pick up on that. They're like, I want what you have. And it's like that responsibility for the way of eating and food not being the whole emphasis around your life. It just becomes who you are.
Definitely. Well, that's awesome. Good chat. Good catching up with you and welcome back from Europe. It's good to have you back.
Oh, well, it's freezing in Melbourne. So it was 38 degrees in Rome.
I was, the people I went to Canada with, we've had plenty of conversations with about, it was snowing most of the places we were at in Canada. And if it wasn't, it was definitely, very, very cold and there was snow not far by because they do a really good job of cleaning the cities up of the snow and stuff like that. But even then, I walked around in jeans, a T-shirt, pretty much what I'm wearing now, and a light hooded jacket. That was it.
Yeah.
I was never as cold as I am now back in Sydney.
Honestly, even Melbourne is better than Sydney, I reckon, because if you go into a venue, it's so well heated that you don't need your jacket. Whereas I remember going to pubs in Sydney and I'd be wearing my coat, like it'd be cold.
I play around the pubs in Sydney, and when I turned up to one not long a week or two ago, right when that middle of that cold snap. I think you would have been away when we had that. It was like mentally cold. And then I walked in with my guitar and stuff, and they're like, so I said, so where am I playing? They went, oh yeah, just out here. And I was out the back in the beer garden on a raised area of the beer garden, plugged into their speaker system that went through the whole pub inside, but they wanted me to play outside. I could not feel my fingers on the guitar. I was the only one out there, mind you, because it was freezing. And I was like, "Oh, you're pumping me through the hotel anyway. Why not put me inside in the warmth, please?"
Yeah, I don't love that. Bring back summer. However, in saying that, bring back summer and summer bod.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
Do protocol now while you can hibernate.
Awesome. Thanks, then. We'll catch up again. I think you're going to be up in Sydney soon, so we'll catch up then.
Yeah.
I think Dean and I are going to be having another Chewing the Fat very shortly as well. We're going to be catching up on a lot of the things he's been out fulfilling on around the world, catching up with the world's leading experts in various fields of medicine, and some other fun stuff too. So stay tuned and check that out as well. Any questions or anything, just put them in the comments below. We'll be happy to answer. And you can check out the website www.simpler.health. See you guys.